Hello, dear friends and comrades. Live, your favorite 60 Minutes in Hot Tracks program. Therefore, Putin commented on the powerful missile attack by the Russian air and space forces on energy facilities in Ukraine. The president called the joint attack part of the demilitarization process. Because, of course, the attack will affect the Ukrainian military-industrial complex, and the creatures that Mikheyev attacked our territory without electricity will be affected by the assembly of drones. As you know, it's impossible. According to the president, Russia was forced to respond to Ukraine's attack on Russia's OFZ in Kiev. Apparently, they thought this game could be played by one person. It turned out not to be. At the same time, the president pointed out that for humanitarian reasons, Russia did not attack infrastructure in the winter to avoid leaving hospitals and schools without power, but Russia did not notice or did not want to notice the goodwill regime in Kiev under pressure from overseas friends. So the blow will continue.
Exactly.
Come on. Unfortunately, we've seen a series of attacks on our power facilities recently and have been forced to respond. I would like to emphasize that, even for humanitarian reasons, we did not carry any blows in the winter, which means that we do not want to leave social institutions, hospitals, etc. without power. But after a series of attacks on our power facilities, they were forced to respond there. But I repeat, if all this ends up solving the problems we talked about at the beginning, A, and the impact on energy are related, including C, has been resolved. On one of the tasks we set for ourselves, it was smoking. Action, well, we're starting with the fact that we're influencing the defense industrial complex in Ukraine in this way and directly. But if we still go to some kind of conversation about solving all the problems in other ways, of course, as I have said many times, it is a miracle, and we are ready for it.
Putin made another important statement after meeting with Belarusian President Lukashenko. It involves peace talks with Kiev. In short, Russia will certainly not discuss any of Zelensky's delusional formulas in Switzerland, and the West seems to invite Moscow to visit. The only possible form is to renew the Istanbul Treaty with Kiev. Admittedly, as Putin said, Ukraine threw this form into the garbage 2 years ago. Moscow then withdrew its troops from Kiev to consolidate the agreement, and Ukraine's neutral, non-aligned status was the key point at the time. Putin reiterated that Russia remains ready for constructive dialogue, but will not allow itself to impose anything. During the meeting, Belarusian President Lukashenko also recalled how Boris Johnson interrupted the Istanbul talks from his idea of fighting to the end, or as they are used to saying, to the last Ukrainian. Boris did not refuse, even now. But this morning he said they went to church and prayed. They are praying that Congress and SHA will allocate money, weapons and shells to Ukraine. Otherwise, the West will face disaster after the Vietnam War. Boris believes Putin will liberate Ukraine.
As you know, I am promoting the idea of holding some kind of meeting in Switzerland, and we will not be invited there. In addition, they think we have nothing to do there, but at the same time they say that nothing can be solved without us. And since we're not going there, it's basically something telling Panopticum that we're refusing to negotiate, we're not invited. They're saying we're refusing, but it would be funny if it wasn't so sad. But I want to emphasize again that we're in favor. It's just not in the form of imposing any plan on us that has nothing to do with reality.
Well, if they want to be in Switzerland, this is what they call a peace conference. Well, God is with them without Russia. What kind of peace can be? There can be no peace process. Well, maybe they're right that they invite us ships, because what can we talk to them about? What can we talk to them about if they try to collect there? Is there anything in our country that dictates or tilts us? This is not an offer for peaceful Perego.
I think they are, but anyway, the other side has pushed themselves into a corner to some extent. Well, yes, when she refused to negotiate in order to defeat Russia on the battlefield of strategic failure. Now they understand that it is impossible. They refuse to negotiate, and now they are in a rather difficult position.
Last night, a geranium hit, and Pavlik was hit again by Ukrainian military facilities in Krivoy Rog, Staro-Konstantinov, in Odessa and Vinnytsia. But it is only today that it is clear, as they say, the scale and destruction of the tests of opponents in the Kiev, Sumy and Kharkiv regions after previous large-scale strikes, that these objects cannot be restored. According to Express, Russia used new X-69 missiles to attack the Tripoli tests, Kiev 5K. In terms of sound novelty, it is a universal carrier program, so it can be used not only on the latest 157, but also on the Su-34, Su-35 aircraft. Range, coughing 59,400 kilometers. Well, that is, depending on the launch site, it can cover the entire territory of Ukraine except Transcarpathia. The weight of the warhead is 290 kilograms. Another piece of good news surrounding all the Russian Ministry of Defense. 1. This year, a batch of Su-35 fighter jets with new aircraft have flown to the Avdiivka service site. The Russian army is advancing in the direction of Umansky, Berdish and Semyonov. At this moment, there was a hard battle there, and the Lancet was destroyed by a blow. Another tanker 64 was swept. The enemy chariot fired at the Russian position from the forest belt, thus giving its position, and then received what is now a military head with accumulated charges. Here, the Russian army was able to pull out the trapped Ukrainian trophy Batyrov 113, flying near Lastochkino in the direction of Donetsk. In Arkomovsk, the Russian army was attacking the Yarklok in the Fennel position. Listening, artillery, aviation are working. The city is under fire control on the north and east and south sides. The French newspaper Libero Information issued a fatal statement, promising Western allies a new offensive in 25 years if they help Ukraine survive 2024. Zelensky, we ourselves remember that in an interview, Bill swore that a new outline plan would come from Kiev. In fact, there is a seemingly manpower for this operation, recruits who must be recruited under the new mobilization law. A senior source at our Ministry of Defense recalled how the summer operation, the previous purchase of VSK militants, took place. Zelensky lost his life and wounded in the last attempt to attack. More than 166,000 people were also destroyed, 789 tanks and 132 aircraft.
We have saturated the mines, we saturate the fields with work. What do you need to do in front of your position every time you pass? Now, mining is like some kind of special operation because engineers need to go at least 200 to 300 meters from the front line, that is, to the enemy. The enemy sometimes moves very close, very hard work. We're preparing the line because we need to. We've considered our mistakes and attacked very hard.
Snorting attack.
Seymour.
Bisha herself is making noise.
We worked the longest in winter, firing 200 shells per shift, and now it's 50 shells, which means saving money.
Ukrainians bows this problem.
Of course, it sounds like an unbearable problem for infantry. It's hard without artillery cover. It's just not conveyed.
All officials.
Italian Vaz at position 28 of the Independent Mechanized Brigade, named after the Winter Campaign Knights.
What kind of growth are we?
We're in the distance now, basically a throw.
Grenades.
How many meters is the discount?
Yes, about, I don't know, if so in a straight line, maybe 70 meters to the next hill, 100. But not borscht.
Call.
Occupy mortars and their art every hour and a half. Our brothers have lost.
Everywhere, everything is absolutely dotted. This is the MKI, which is very easy to detect visually. This is a drone that I hope is not ours right now.
We'll throw nothing. Gamblers will look for dates.
Let's go to our fleet. I'll show Sash the car. You can pick any car, shake it with a file. It's amazing.
The car is squat, which means more.
It is worth noting that the main thing is that it all starts here anyway.
Stand up, it's all over.
Digging. Sleep and dig a lot to defend. You need to dig. You need to build fortifications. It's just Titanic.
Tectonic contraction.
I'm another Ukrainian city that the Russians are trying to seize. We can look at it here on the map. The army, Russia is trying to control the next larger city in this direction. After they took Mahmud last May, we see that they are now very close to the city, so to speak, close to the entrance to the village of Ivanovskoye, which is also largely controlled by Russia.
Ukrainian authorities have not released official figures, but experts say about 6,000 Ukrainians need prosthetic limbs as a result of the war. After 3 years of war, the Ukrainian army is seriously inferior to Russia in terms of personnel and weapons. President Zelensky lowered the minimum age for conscription to 27 to 25 and reconsidered the decision to grant disability exemption in early April.
Of course, I'm scared. I'm really afraid of stepping on the mine again. It happens to be that I have a hard time moving. I have to work on it. If I go to the firing position again, I'll try to reprogram myself psychologically. I realized I needed to be more careful now. Guys and reactionary.
Russian forces will launch an offensive in late May and early June. I think we will be well prepared at this point, and we will see how it goes next.
Without our help.
Without the help of Western allies, it will be very difficult for us, provided that it passes in enough numbers first, and two will continue.
We'll go further.
All hopes. Therefore, all the hopes of Ukrainians are still placed on the U.S. Congress, which did not even vote on the U.S. Congressman's $60 billion appropriation bill overnight, which humiliated Japanese Prime Minister Kishida, that is the leader of the country, at the age of 45. Kishida was bombed by nuclear weapons, and Kishida almost shouted that it was important for the world to have nuclear weapons. Continued to play a key role on the planet, especially as the West is at a turning point whose history, as Kishida said, will determine the next stage of human development. Zelensky himself went to the Baltic states to beg the Poles, but got nothing but a strong handshake with Duda Rinkevičius and Nausėda. But not in Warsaw. Zelensky's eyes did not find a Petro battery, which would not avoid realizing the situation in which he now finds himself constantly in plain fear. This is the statement of Wolframo Weiner, editor-in-chief of German Velbot.
Volodymyr Zelensky is on an official visit to Lithuania for the Primorsky Krai summit.
Leaders from more than a dozen Central European countries, including Poland, the Czech Republic and Romania, are attending the Primorsky Krai summit in Vilnius, Ukraine, the dominant theme of the event agenda.
It is very important for my country and the Lithuanian people to support you by all means, political, economic and military.
Of course, we will discuss various initiatives. You know, when these initiatives are just beginning, everyone is talking loudly about them. But it is necessary to translate them into results for Ukraine. Of course, we will also discuss air defense. This is the most serious challenge for us right now.
Zelensky also signed another security agreement with Latvia, under which the coalition has pledged to spend at least a quarter of its GDP. Cybersecurity, mine clearance, and unmanned systems.
Back day.
Only joint action and true unity can protect our freedom from Russian aggression.
Sumy barge.
We all see that Putin does not want to be limited to our land.
Listen to our land.
The threat of Russia covers the entire space from Europe to Kazakhstan.
I'll be a cell.
He clearly described what Putin plans to do this year, and we have enough intelligence information.
Critical.
It is essential that each partner deliver on its commitments to supply weapons and ammunition. Reality must finally begin to match words. It is crucial for European unity to confirm that the EU is not afraid of itself and NATO is not afraid of its own rules.
NATO is not afraid of its overbearing rules.
It is a fact that a democratic European country that shares and defends the common values of Europe in the Euro-Atlantic space deserves to be a member of the European Union and the North Atlantic Alliance. This fact needs to be confirmed with practical actions. June is the right time to actually start negotiations on Ukraine's accession to the European Union. Europe needs this signal of its own strength so that Putin is not tempted to think. Europe is said to be showing weakness. Likewise, the alliance is mine. There is no real alternative to inviting Ukraine to join NATO.
Support for SH seems to be stuck for Ukraine. If military support is not accepted, Ukraine will have to negotiate with Russia.
From Russia.
Without help, we will be in great difficulty. We will lose our people. And when he spreads such a Russian narrative, the problem is not only in the territory, but also in the territory. And the problem of the people of the territory is also important to us. Because if you don't restore your territorial integrity, then they don't respect your sovereignty.
For this reason, sovereignty.
So this is the new law?
With regard to the new mobilization law, will it force people who have left Ukraine to join the Ukrainian armed forces?
Snake.
There are some changes in the mobilization, and according to this mobilization, yes, there is a strengthening of control over the evaders. But I would say that anyone who violates the mobilization law, even without this law, is of investment age. He is an evader or something illegal. He has violated one or another of the current legislation, and now some changes to some norms have been recorded, which will help the military leadership.
Who's Lithuanian Polish?
Are Lithuania and Poland considering providing systems?
Patrioty.
Patriot and Latvia Animal Systems Patriot.
Lithuania does not have a Patriot system. We recently reached an agreement with the Netherlands to deploy a Patriot battery to Lithuania for exercises. She will be temporarily stationed in Lithuania this summer. We transferred the pump system to Ukraine. Frankly, it's getting harder and harder to find something to pass on because we're running out of money.
Born in Poland?
Poland doesn't have the pace of its patriots right now, and we're just starting to install these systems in Poland. We can't convey anything even if we want to. Of course, Poland has a battery deployed, but these systems are installed by the US military. Let me remind you that of all the countries that are Ukraine's neighbors, it is Poland that has a Russian missile flying and causing damage. Meanwhile, in Poland, Russian missiles violated our airspace. It is true that we ourselves find ourselves constantly threatened by Russian attacks, so these systems protect us today. President Zelensky and I discussed some of the Soviet-era missile stocks we still have. We discussed the possibility of transferring them to Ukraine to provide air defense for Ukraine. I'll talk to my defense minister when I get back to Warsaw.
Kuleb's tough diplomacy didn't work. They say the news that the whole of Ukraine is praying for is that the European Parliament has refused to approve funding from the European Council until the additional PVO Patriot system is handed over to Ukraine, which turns out to be chic. The idea did have the support of 515 members of the European Parliament, but the decision to hand over the PO to Ukraine rests with the head of state of their parliament. Of course, there is a problem here. At the same time, the European Parliament itself did not vote not to approve the funding of the Council of the European Union, but to postpone the issue of closing the account, and in fiscal year 22. In general, these are purely technical processes. Paramoga is once again transformed from a wound. The Americans set another stage when they blocked aid from SH, but they started not transferring weapons to Ukraine, huh? Sell weapons? Washington has approved an emergency sale of air defense systems worth $138 million. We're not even talking about the Patriots. We're talking about the old Coach system. This system is designed to fight drones and is exclusive. At the same time, only part of the money will be used for new air defense, and the rest will be used to modernize air defense systems, according to the consequences of SH. What about the budget in Ukraine? Overall, Kiev's last hope is Macron.